everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. We're up here in the third floor pod kitchen of our beautiful lodge, and we were going to talk with you guys a little bit about some no-bake cookies that are really clean and healthy and wonderful, a little power-filled snack, as well as some questions to get to know us a little bit better. So we've had some of our awesome colleagues write in some questions for us, and we would love to answer them for you and get to know you guys, or for you to get to know us, rather. Do you want to read the first question?
Sure.
Okay.
So this one's from Chelsea. It's kind of a two-part question, and it's, are you both in recovery, and where are you from?
All right, well, I can go first. I'm from Colorado originally. I am not in recovery.
I'm from Kansas originally, also not in recovery.
But we do understand recovery. A lot of people who work in our industry struggle with substance abuse and mental health issues. So we are not foreign to the concept of getting better and healing yourselves. So we are here to help everybody with our experience and our knowledge of that.
So where do you come from, Colorado?
Well, I technically moved to Colorado when I was 12. I lived in Estes Park. That's where I grew up. And then I went to culinary arts school and came back, ended up in Vail for my internship, and ended up staying because I loved it so much.
Awesome.
How about you? Where in Kansas?
Wichita originally, and then moved up to Northeast Kansas for about a decade. Went to KU, and then moved out here in 2010 with my now wife and our animals, and just like you, found my way to Vail and never plan on leaving. So
Yeah, kind of sucks you in. It's beautiful.
All right, so the next question I have for you is, if you weren't a chef, what would you be?
See, that is a tough question for me because I have a lot of interests. I like to do a lot of things. I love sports. I love coaching. I love inspiring and leading. So I think if I could pick anything, I would be a college volleyball coach or a sports psychologist, either or.
Those are both good ones.
Yeah, how about you?
I think, kind of with you, we both have that same sports background. And before I decided to go to culinary school, my area of expertise was in sports medicine. I was going to be a physical therapist, sports and fitness management, so that whole kind of sports medicine field. So
that's something you and I actually have in common,
Absolutely.
Which kind of leads into the next question. Do you want to read this, or do you want me to?
Oh, I'll read it.
Okay.
What did you go to school for, and did you always want to be a chef?
So, yes and no. So what I wanted to do when I was a kid, well, first I wanted to be a pilot, and then honestly 9/11 happened and it completely just changed my mind. I wanted to go do something else. So what I went to school for, I wanted to do culinary arts. I did college culinary classes while I was still in high school. I got my associate's degree when I graduated high school, so I had kind of both going, and then I went into culinary arts. But I also wanted to bridge the gap between sports and culinary, so I went to CSU after I went to Johnson & Wales for my culinary degree to go into health and exercise science. So that's how you and I are kind of linked in that way. So I wanted to kind of bridge the gap between, health and wellness and culinary, and kind of take the sports world and the nutrition world and kind of bring them together. That's what I wanted to do.
Awesome.
How about you?
Well, I already kind of told you I went to school for sports and fitness management and physical therapy. Originally, when I was in high school, I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon.
Awesome.
And then I decided that was way too much schooling that I wanted to go into. So that was kind of, I started cooking in college out of a means to an end to help pay rent and bills, and then I had always had a love for it, and then I decided, I love doing this. I'm enjoying doing it for a side gig as a job. Maybe this is what I want to get into. So I changed fields.
It is a lot of fun. I have to give you that.
So what is culinary school like, and what was it like for you? What courses did you take?
So culinary school for me, I really loved it. I loved culinary school. It was very regimented. I played volleyball for the school as well. So I got to be a student athlete and go to this very kind of it's not quite like a military school per se, but it's still, there are very high expectations and very high standards for how you conduct yourself and how you approach the day, how you approach what you do. Again, the more disciplined you can be, the more successful you'll be at this, because it requires a lot of discipline in order to be a chef. And I absolutely loved culinary school. So I would get up in the morning, again, student athlete part of me, I would go to the weight room, and then I would be in labs most of the day. I loved all of my teachers. It was very classically, I was classically trained, so everything was very specific to we were learning about French cuisine this week, and then we were doing garde-manger this week, and then we're doing, or this term, and then we're doing stocks and sauces. And I absolutely loved the format of the school that I went to. I've also been very lucky to get to teach culinary arts classes for Colorado Mountain College, which is a different format than from what I went to. So I went to school, did my full associate's degree, went on my internship, and then went back to finish my bachelor's degree in food service management. The way that I teach culinary is a lot different than the way I learned culinary, so it's kind of fun. But we took a lot of fun courses. My very favorite one was actually dining room service, where we did everything. We did tableside service of everything. So we would, the way my culinary school was set up, all of the teaching kitchens they had these big roll windows. So you'd go through your lesson, and at a certain point in the day, they'd roll up the windows, and anybody that was not taking lab that time was in the dining room. So the dining room service course was serving the other students, and all of the kitchens were feeding the students. It was really cool. I loved it.
Nice.
What about you?
Culinary school is very regimented, like you said. Slightly different format. We kind of talked about this yesterday, but both of us, we had to be in uniform, creases, iron in the jackets, pants, neckerchief, hat, everything tied appropriately in its place, or else you couldn't participate.
You got kicked out of class if you did not have your discipline down.
Absolutely. But ours was an apprenticeship program, so basically I had so many apprenticeship hours I had to fulfill each semester over the 3-year course, and basically each semester you were apprentice 1, apprentice 2, all the way up to 6. We had school on Mondays from 7:30 in the morning until 9 at night. I worked as a chef apprentice in an accredited restaurant for 40 hours a week, if not a little more, for very little pay. And then I had one day to do homework and start the whole week all over again. Our serving class, we didn't really have a serving class. Our serving classes were during the graduation practical luncheon. So we all had to do like an 8-course luncheon to graduate. And all of the other culinary 1, you're doing dishes. Culinary 2, you're doing this. And 3 and 4, you were the servers. 5, you were the sous chef for the graduate, and things like that. So that's how we kind of worked through it. I don't know if I had a favorite class. Very much the same classes you had to take. It was very much like that. This semester's garde-manger, this semester's this. However, in the advanced labs, I think I started really getting more into the butchery. I really enjoyed the butchering aspects of, breaking down a whole side of beef, breaking down a whole lamb, all the different types of animals to separate and segment out, and I really enjoyed that. So.
Good.
All right, so this question is from Anna. Do you cook at home much, or do you get burnt out from cooking at work all the time?
It really depends on the day. It also depends on what we've been cooking. If it's something that I, put my whole heart and soul into, I'm usually exhausted by the end of the day, and I'll eat cereal out of the box, I'm not gonna lie. But it depends. If it's my day off and I'm feeling inspired, or I got to go into the farmer's market and get something fresh and new and wonderful, that kind of sparks the little creative interest. And I do a lot of meal prep at home, making sure that my family has stuff to eat while I'm not there. But yeah, how about yourself?
Kind of like you. I get burnt out and I don't want to cook a lot at home. More so, it's the fact that I don't want to clean up after I do the cooking at home. And it's usually on a day off. So, do I want to spend my day off cooking and cleaning? No. However, I do enjoy cooking at home. I usually do it with my wife though. So if I'm cooking at home, it's usually with her. We're doing it together. It's a way to spend time together. And she's a really, really good cook. She's been with me since I kind of started culinary school, so she's learned as I've learned. So she's a pretty good cook anyway.
Awesome.
So, and if I'm just not in the mood, she's more than willing to take up the.
That's great. That's fun. Something you guys can do together.
Yeah.
Fun. Awesome. All right. So Sandy, we love Sandy. How did each of you become interested in cooking?
Well, for me, I was always kind of interested in cooking, and it kind of stems from my mom. My mom and my great-grandma. She kind of learned from my great-grandma, and I kind of learned from her. And it wasn't anything that I always, when I was growing up, was like, oh, this is my heart and soul. I want to do this the rest of my life. However, I was always interested.
Mm-hmm.
She'd always be making buttered horn rolls from scratch or something at family or holidays, and
Mm-hmm.
she made sure we always ate a well-balanced meal that was made in home as opposed to a box that you just added water and heated up. So she really put those values into me and my sister at a young age. So we started helping her cook at a young age, and we found that when we helped her, we were more into eating the food that we made. So we were more invested, I guess. So that's really where I got my interest and love for cooking. What about you?
Mine was very similar. My mom and my grandmother. My grandma was the one who had, she was like Martha Stewart. She had the entire backyard was a vegetable garden, and being able to cook with her and she kind of gave me an appreciation for fresh foods, being able to create something out of fresh products. And then my mom, she would make the best comfort food, and it wasn't anything like it was like unhealthy,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like she has this root vegetable soup that I swear, if I'm ever sick, I used to still call my mom like, Mommy, can you make me soup? So there was a love there, and then I got to, one of my chores growing up was helping make sure that dinner was started before my mom got home. So it kind of started that creative piece of like, oh, what's in the kitchen? What's in the fridge? What can I put together and make a meal out of? So that was kind of where my stuff came from.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. So this kind of goes off of that. These questions are from Abe. Who inspired your love for culinary? So we just kind of covered that a little bit. But who is your favorite chef?
I have several favorite chefs. Throughout my progression as becoming a chef and getting into this industry, I've found inspiration through several chefs that I would not be who I am today without them. When I first started cooking, I was really and even before I started cooking, I was into Jacques Pepin
Mm-hmm.
and some of the other classic chefs. We talked about brain fart at the moment. Anthony Bourdain.
Yes.
I loved Anthony Bourdain, and we just had the anniversary of his passing a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Oliver and what he did for
Right.
nutritious eating with schools. Mario Batali.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my biggest inspiration learning to cook was Charlie Trotter. The way that he put things together, and it was more about the food and the natural flavors of the food versus masking the ingredients and combining stuff. It was all very simple, but yet delicious and well executed, and I think that that's really stuck with me.
That's amazing.
However, lately I've been on this Southeast Asian thing.
Which is fine. It's fine. You can be inspired from other things.
What
right?
about you? Who's your favorite chef?
Well, I really like Kat Cora. I think she's an amazing chef. She was the first female Iron Chef. So when I was kind of going through, discovering who I wanted to be as a chef, she was kind of big at the time, and I thought she was just amazing. She was this little spitfire, like sassy lady, didn't let anybody tell her what to do, and she was awesome. There are a lot of different chefs. You named a good portion of mine, and people inspire me as well. Jamie Oliver is amazing. I absolutely love what he does with food and how he kind of makes it accessible. And it doesn't have to be an intimidating thing, and it can be accessible to everybody. The food is not a privilege, it's a right kind of deal, and I absolutely love that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Awesome. Okay. So, I love this question. This is one that he and I both talked about a little bit yesterday and kind of brought up some emotions because it really is a thing. This question is from Anna. Do you get in a cooking rut like a writer's block? If so, how do you get out of it?
So we kind of, like she said, discussed this yesterday. There's a couple different ways I took this question. So if I'm trying to just create a special for the night or just a dish, I feel like a good way to go about things is just to go stand in the walk-in. I'll stand in the walk-in, I'll look around and see what moves me. Maybe I'll start with a vegetable or I'll start with a protein and I'll build the dish around that. Mm-hmm. However, if creating a menu is what you're trying to do, things can get a little more tricky. I've had a passing of my mom that affected my ability to create and be creative, and it's taken me a few years to get past that and start to do it again. So it's all very tough, and there's different ways, but I think the best way to get around it is to just get in there and start cooking. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, how do you get through your writer's block?
I mean, I think kind of the thing to talk about too, and what you had mentioned is like the passing of your mom. That was your inspiration to start in the first place, and so losing that inspiration makes things really difficult. I had kind of not similar, but I had a restaurant that I absolutely adored, and I loved it and loved it and loved it, and I put every single piece of my soul into that, and then decided to sell it after having 3 babies in 5 years and not being able to work 100 hours a week anymore, and it literally just sucked the soul right out of me because that was my everything at the time. And so after just making that decision to let that piece of me go, it was really hard for me to get inspired again for a little while. And what happened for me was getting that back was through teaching culinary classes and being able to share the love of food and share the love of cooking. It kind of brought that back to me. So getting inspired to, create dishes and revisit all of that is kind of like what you talked about, of going around and seeing what's available to you and kind of looking at what's nearby and what can I create? How can I make this amazing? How can I take a carrot and turn it into something unique and special as opposed to just being a carrot? Or like being able to kind of elevate the integrity of the food. Like it's not just cauliflower or it's not just a piece of steak. Like how can I make this the most amazing thing it could possibly be and create balance in a dish and create flavor profiles that may not necessarily be there naturally? Like how can I accent that? And that's kind of the piece that you guys have to tap back into of like, oh well, I could just make a dinner out of a steak and a piece of some potatoes, or I could create something really amazing out of a steak and some potatoes. So it's all about the mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so this question is really fun, and I actually really like this one also. This is from Jim. How do you think you learn to stay so calm, nice, pleasant, and accommodating when most chefs just don't?
Well, we also touched on this when we were chatting yesterday, and I think we both kind of have a similar way of looking at it. Preparedness, having your mise en place, whether you're cooking on a station or you're running the expo line and observing and running the whole shift in the kitchen and the service, or even anything else. It's all about preparedness, having everything in its place. You start rushing around, you start getting frantic, then people ask for stuff, and then that's when you lose your cool. But if everything is right there for you, you don't get so flustered, and then it's easier to stay nice and even keel.
That is true.
And I think a good part of it is just your natural disposition. Sometimes people get worked up over nothing. You really got to be able to not take it personally that someone is affecting what you feel like is your dish that's already perfect and changing the flavor profiles. But the next part of this I'll let you kind of touch on is just we're trying to make the guests happy. So I'll let you elaborate on that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean the thing to remember, I think when you're in the heat of the moment, a lot of times, especially during service time, again, we come from a very regimented, very specific, disciplined background, and we want what we want. A lot of chefs are the same way. Like, if I ask you to do it this way, I want it done this way every single time. And so a lot of times where some of that stress comes from is, for a chef, is people kind of not following that mindset and going off and doing things on their own. And for people who are in the industry and working their way up, just know you will have your time, but at the moment, do what your chef asks you to do, and you will alleviate a lot of stress for yourself. But also, like, remembering that at the end of the day, what we do, we're creating happiness and contentment through food. And so when we just remember what the end game is and what the vision is, that we are here to make people happy through food and nourish them and make them feel better, that kind of changes the mindset, as opposed to, oh my gosh, I'm stressed, I'm in the middle of service, I'm trying to throw out 90 plates at the same time, or I'm here to help somebody feel better, be happier, create something wonderful through food. Being able to keep your cool is a lot easier, and if you get stressed out, it makes it a lot harder to just do your job. If you can remain calm, remain controlled, and help control the chaos around you, it makes everybody's job easier. So, yeah.
Makes sense.
All right. So, Keith sent us this question. Do you source any of what we serve at the lodge locally?
Yeah. It's been a little difficult, as you know, with the COVID restrictions. Suppliers, farms, small farms, a lot of food going to waste, and a lot of people can't get it through the correct chains to the purveyors that we need to be able to get it here. So it's been tough. However, we still are trying to use a few local, we use Color Coffee.
Which is delicious. Love it.
We use 2 Leaves in a Bud tea, and they're out of Basalt.
They are.
Yeah. Polidori Meats, which is a local sausage company.
Yep, they're out of Denver. They're awesome. They also take tours, so if you're ever down in the Denver area and you want to tour their facility, they'll take you in. It's a pretty amazing place.
Boulder Chips, and then Rosen Lamb. So we get our lamb. Rosen, I believe, is Western Slope.
They are. And we're going to use more as well, just because of the way that COVID has affected the industry lately. We haven't been able to create these relationships that we're going to soon, but our state produces some amazing food and amazing produce, and as the seasons kind of progress and as things return to normal, we're going to be able to bring in a lot more local produce, which is also going to inspire us a little bit. Absolutely. Because the produce is amazing. Perfect. All right, so next question from Keith. Are there challenges to cooking in the mountains due to altitude and climate?
I would say yes. I'll touch on climate, and I'll let you touch on altitude, since that's almost more your specialty anyway.
Okay.
So climate goes along with climate change and weather patterns. The more rain we get, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Sometimes the droughts are good and bad. It's been a little dry this spring, so we're curious how that's going to affect our local produce this summer. So living in the mountains with our changing seasons and the shortened seasons, and the fact that one day it'll be 70 and the next day it'll be 6 inches of snow like we had this week. It makes things difficult for the growers in the industry to figure out how and when to plant, when to get things in the grow house, when to take things out. So absolutely, it's not the same as living in Kansas, where I come from, where it's very regimented. All the soil is fertile, and here's your irrigation and water, and just grow.
Yep.
It's definitely a lot different in the mountains.
Agreed. And then the altitude piece, it does affect things quite a bit, but as long as you understand the why behind the way things work, it's a lot easier to cook at altitude. So if you understand how air density affects the way that leaveners work, and again, it takes a couple minutes to kind of educate yourself on how that happens, but once you understand the why, it makes it a whole lot easier to create things up here, especially baking cakes. For some reason, sodium bicarbonate, baking soda, baking powder is really affected, and if you do something with aeration, so if you're making a souffle, you have to kind of know what the weather's like, because if it's too humid or too dry, or we're in a low pressure system, your souffle is probably not going to turn out. So it's kind of important to know all of those things as you're going to cook, because it affects us more than you'd realize. I actually have a really hard time baking at sea level, because I'm so used to adjusting all of my recipes and all of the ratios at altitude that when I get to sea level, I'm like, this is so dense, what happened? So it's different up here. And then we have a really fun question that I wanted to throw out there. This one was also from Abe. If you were trying to impress a date, what would you make? And this is actually a really difficult question.
So this is tough. I think it would depend on the person you're cooking for.
Mm-hmm.
If I was trying to impress someone for a date, I would hopefully somewhat know them a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe it's a first date and you're really trying to impress. In that case, you just pick your best dish and go for it.
Yep.
But yeah, try to maybe find out what they like. If they like seafood, do a seafood dish. I would probably make congee for my wife, which
Perfect.
I know that sounds very simple and peasant-like, but the connections that she has with it and that I have with it over in Southeast Asia, and it brings back certain memories, and it's a comfort food. And at the same time, you can really elevate it and put so many different things into it as garnishes and toppings that the congee itself is just the vessel to hold all of the amazing ingredients and turbot that you put into it. So you can really dial it into each person's.
That's
taste.
awesome. I love that, Ben. That's a great answer. Just made me really happy. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of going with what you were saying, is like, just make sure you kind of listen, pick up on cues. Hopefully, like if it's a first date, don't cook anything that might potentially cause an allergic reaction if you don't know the person very well. But just, I mean, the end goal again is to make someone happy. So as long as you give it your best and do what you can and you put your heart into it, you probably get a positive result.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go get the camera.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to move on now to teaching you guys a really simple dessert. It is a no-bake cookie. We make these a lot in our household. So these are what they end up looking like. Beautiful. So these are a no-bake cookie. They have really clean ingredients. So what we got for our base ingredients here, we've got peanut butter. You can use a seed butter, like a sunflower seed, if you were worried about allergens or making someone ill. Almond butter. It just depends on what you're into. But as long as it's got the same texture and viscosity, it should be fine. I've actually made them with Nutella before. They're awesome, but because it's got high fat content, you have to kind of up your dry ingredients or decrease your peanut butter or your Nutella so that it actually works out. Honey, this is our sweetening agent. So it is going to be, I mean, it's pretty awesome. It's good for the body, it's clean, it runs quickly, the body is able to process it, and it's also a preservative. So it's actually going to keep your cookies fresh longer. It's also going to keep bacterial growth down. We have coconut here. This is sweetened. You can also use unsweetened. That's what we use at my house. I've got some chocolate chunks, dark chocolate chunks here. This one has chocolate chips. We made them earlier. You can also use raisins or dried cranberries, or if you want to put some extra like almond slices or something like that in there, you can do that as well. And then we've got oats and cinnamon. I put them together since they kind of go in together. Chia seeds. Now these are pretty awesome if you've ever used chia seeds before. These can make an egg if you're going to be baking. You can make, if you need to make something vegan, just put these in a little bit of water. These 2 tablespoons per ounce. It's a tablespoon per ounce, and then you let it reconstitute. You can use it as an egg. In this application, it's actually going to be a binder for our cookie, and it's also going to provide some insoluble fiber, which is really good for the gut. I've got some vanilla bean paste, which is wonderful. It's very concentrated flavor-wise because it does have the vanilla bean seeds in there. I don't know if you can see those. But it's some really concentrated flavor. You can also use vanilla, some vanilla extract as well.
So I'll walk you through how to get these done. We are also going to post the recipe when we post this video on the Instagram page. Okay, so our peanut butter goes in. Okay, as well as our honey. We need to make sure that these are mixed well before we add our dry ingredients, because the dry ingredients are going to start to suck up all the moisture of what we put in here. And if we don't have them evenly distributed, you're going to get a little pocket full of honey, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's also not really what we want. So these are going to get mixed well. I'm going to put in our vanilla bean paste. I'm going to put a lot because I like a lot of vanilla. Okay, so this gets mixed well. And again, because chia seeds do absorb about 300% of their weight in water, we need to add some water to this. Now I would recommend that we use hot water. If you use cold, it's going to seize up your honey and make it really, really difficult to blend this. So I've got my water here. Gonna mix it right in. Again, it's going in with my peanut butter, my honey, and my vanilla. And at this point, that is when we start to add all of our dry ingredients. It's making some nice sloshy sounds. All right, so now I've got all of this incorporated. It's making the base. So I'm gonna go for my oats and my cinnamon first. My coconut. I'm not gonna add all of this. Again, we'll post the recipe so you guys know exactly what ratios you're looking for. And my chia seeds. And these have some really wonderful health benefits, and I would recommend you never eat them straight. Make sure they are with some moisture, because again, they're gonna start absorbing moisture. I actually had a friend end up in the hospital because he just like downed a handful of chia seeds and they started absorbing all of the moisture in his esophagus. So, careful. So now that we've got this all starting to mix together, I put the chocolate chips in last because if they start to break down, it's really hard to mix these. Okay, so I've got my base. I'm going to add my chocolate chips, and again, you can add whatever chunks you want to in here. It's just like making a cookie. Get these all incorporated, and then you're going to use a scoop. Okay, scoop them out, roll them into a nice little ball, and let them sit in the fridge, because again, we are working with dry ingredients. We want those dry ingredients to start absorbing all of the liquid, and it's going to create a binder, which is then going to hold your cookie together. If we use too much of those binders, it actually ends up causing these to break apart and become dry, but these ones aren't perfect. Perfect. All right, so we're going to set these off to the side, and we're going to play a little word association game with Shawn. So I'm going to put him on the spot.
Can't wait.
And he's going to earn a cookie for his efforts. So I'm going to take the camera from him. We're going to put him on the spot now. Oh. Don't worry, we got it. Yeah. Okay, so Shawn, I'm going to give you 5 food words, and you're going to tell me the first thing that you think of. Okay? Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I have not heard these words before.
He has not heard these words before. Don't worry, I will not embarrass him too much. All right, okay. Your first word is peanut.
Allergy.
Good one. Your second word is carrot.
Mirepoix.
Soup.
Broccoli cheese.
Whisk.
Aerate.
Ooh, good one. And your last word is going to be duck.
14. Delicious, fatty.
They're really good.
Breast. I want it.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us this Wednesday. We hope you have a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday.